Greetings from sunny Swansea, where the sunshine is always liquid. For all you existing subscribers, welcome back, and to all you new subscribers, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you here. Here's a question to all you newcomers to the hobby. You know what era you'd like to model. You know what area you'd like to model. And you know what trains you want to run. But have you ever sat down and thought about what tools you're going to need to build that layout? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through those tools, many of which you probably already own if you have a DIY kit indoors. You'll need a pistol hand drill, preferably cordless. This doesn't need to be a top-of-the-line DeWalt or Milwaukee model. A budget alternative will do the same job. A nice-to-have feature is adjustable torque. This tool will be invaluable from drilling holes to driving screws. To go with your drill, you're going to need some drill bits. From basic drill bits to spade bits. A basic multi-size wood bit set can be bought relatively inexpensive from your local hardware or DIY store. Spade bits are useful for making bigger holes to pass wires through the framing. You will need some saws. A basic wide blade tenon saw is a basic essential for cutting timber and sheet materials you'll be using during construction. Powered jigsaws, circular saws and miter saws are nice to have but not essential, although having them will speed up construction. Maybe you could borrow these from friends or family. Hole saws are useful for making bigger holes, and they usually come in sets with an auger, with a pilot drill, and the hole saw screws onto that, and that goes into your drill. You will also need a selection of screwdrivers. You'll need several different types and sizes. Phillips, large blade, you may also find a ratcheting screwdriver that takes various size screw driving bits useful. These usually come with a selection of bits from flathead, Phillips and Poddy drive. These driver bits can also be used as an attachment in your pistol drill. If you're using nails or need to persuade a stubborn piece to fit, then you'll need a hammer. These come in various types, but a basic claw hammer and a smaller pin hammer, at the very least, are what you will need. Basic clamps are used for a variety of tasks, from clamping material together while gluing, or holding workpieces still when drilling and sawing. They act as an extra pair of hands, very useful when you're working alone. Clamps are also available, such as miter clamps for clamping frame corners together while processing, sash clamps, which are a larger version of this, for holding large pieces together. A good steel rule is an inexpensive necessity when marking out for cuts and drill positions. I'd go as far as saying a 6-inch or 150mm rule and a 12-inch or 300mm rule are the very least you will need. Another handy one to have is the meter rule, which can also act as a straight edge when marking out. Another handy measuring tool to have is your basic tape measure. Very, very useful for measuring longer distances. I would advise to pay a little more for quality with these. Essential for getting your corners square is a set square or a carpenter's square. The other alternative is a combination square. These come with protractors and right angle and 45-degree angle attachments. Usually with a spirit level on. I'd say the combination square is the more useful tool because it can be used for marking out angles and it can be used as a depth measure. Now we've discussed the tools you'll need to build your baseboards, in part 2 we'll discuss the tools you'll need to lay your track. You're going to need a good pair of track cutters to cut the track. I use these Xuron track cutters. They're expensive but they are quality product. And they will last you for many years if you don't mistreat them. You will also need some sort of electric multi-tool. This is a Dremel and I have fitted to it a very handy attachment which is the flexible shaft, which means I can get down and get quite close to the track for cutting purposes, whereas if I was to use just this end, as you could see, I'd be well away from the track and it'd be cutting at an angle. This is the cordless version. This is a very handy tool. Can also be used if you put a collet in the end and put a drill in, for drilling micro holes in your track, for putting your track pins through, or your track screws, or as I do, I use it to make holes for the drawing pins that I use to hold the track in position whilst the glue goes off, because I copydex my track to the cork. A box of micro drills. These will be very useful for a variety of modelling tasks, but these will fit in your Dremel and you can drill very small holes through your track for your track pins or your track screws or your drawing pins if you're gluing the track and you like to use drawing pins to hold it in place while the glue goes off. These are not expensive and they come from 0.3 millimeters to 1.6 millimeter diameter, and there's 20 in a box. Another useful tool is a set of track setters. These come in a variety of diameters as well as a straight piece for laying out your track. So they come as a 60-inch curve, 48-inch curve, 42-inch curve, 36-inch curve, 30-inch curve, 24-inch curve, 21-inch curve and 18-inch curve. And as said, the straight bit for making sure you can get nice straight runs of track. A very worthwhile investment and take the guesswork out of making your curves. The trusty pin hammer, very useful for hammering track pins through. You don't want to be using your big claw hammer for that. You need a little pin hammer. It's got a nice small head, so you can hammer those track pins in if that's what you're using. A good pair of radio or snipe nose pliers, very handy for multiple use for railway tasks. They're very good for holding onto your track pins when you're hammering, or for holding onto your sleepers when you're, sorry, not your sleepers, onto your track when you're pushing your fish plates on. A bent piece of rail. You can use this, make one of these out of any old offcut of rail. This is a useful tool for helping you get fish plates on. So you put your fish plate on the end, push it up to the end, and then you can push it onto your track like so, without getting a fish plate under your fingernail, which, let me tell you, is very painful. You will need a soldering iron, preferably one that has got adjustable heat and replacement tips, a soldering iron stand which will hold your moistened sponge for cleaning your tip, a handy wire tip cleaning tool, very handy for cleaning your tip between jobs. DCC Concepts No Clean Flux. You don't want to be washing each piece of track off after you've soldered your droppers on. And of course, to do that job, you're going to need a roll of solder. 6040 is your friend, and you will only be able to buy lead free these days. Such is the way of the world. But with a soldering iron set at the correct temperature, a nice clean piece of track, pre-tinned dropper white rails, some flux and a clean tip, you won't have any problems with your soldering. A glass fibre pen, very, very handy for using to clean your track before you solder, to take any oxidisation and tarnish off. They come, if I can work out how to get it out, with replacement tips. It's worth buying a set of replacement tips at the same time. This also comes in very useful for cleaning rolling stock wheels, because you will be surprised at the amount of dirt your wheels pick up, even on relatively clean track. And it can also be used for removing decals and other modelling tasks. Very, very useful, very, very cheap to buy. You're going to need a craft knife of some description. They come in a variety of different types. Those with the disposable snap-off blades, and the more expensive but preferred, it's actually a surgeon's medical knife with replaceable non-sterile surgical blades. I use this for all sorts of things, but from a track lane perspective, this is used for cutting the pandroll clips off, cutting the webbing on the back of the track to access it for soldering the droppers, and of course all your other general modelling tasks where you need a cutting blade. A ballast spreader box, and you can use a spoon and a brush. Now, this takes all the hard work out of ballasting your track. I do have a video on the channel, a quick short one of how to ballast track, if you want to check that out. These are not expensive. You can buy them ready-made like this one as I did, or you can buy them in a kit and make them yourself. I think they're also now available as laser cut MDF versions. Very, very useful tool. Again, non-expensive, and will save you heaps and heaps of time when it comes to ballasting. You also might find it worthwhile investing in a pin vise. These are very useful for holding onto drills, for drilling small holes where a use of a Dremel isn't appropriate. They come as a fixed type, and this is my preferred version. This is the Archimedes type. So you hold on to the end and rub it up and down, and it basically turns it into a little micro drill. And very, very handy. Again, useful for when the Dremel's a bit of an overkill, or you've got your Dremel set up for another task such as cutting track, and you want to be able to drill your holes in your sleepers for your pins. This is ideal. So there we have it, a few tools that you'll find useful when laying your track. In the next section of the video, we're going to discuss the tools you might want to buy if you're going to be doing a lot of landscaping to your model railway. An old bread knife is great for cutting polystyrene or Celotex sheets to create hills and valleys, but make sure you don't use your partner or mother's bread knife to maintain household harmony. An old bowl can be used for making plaster of Paris or papier-mâché, but it's best to avoid using the one from the kitchen. This is actually a paint scuttle that I use. Again, doesn't have to be anything special. Cheap plastic washing up bowl could do the same job. Just don't steal the one from the kitchen if you don't want to get upset your wife or partner. A hot glue or cold glue gun is very useful for sticking things together, but if using the hot glue version, be careful not to burn your fingers on the glue whilst it's still warm. This is a Dremel one. This has got two heat settings, got low and high, and it's also got changeable tips. But you can get a cheap one that'll do exactly the same job, and it's very handy for sticking cardboard to layouts. I would say that it doesn't work very well on polystyrene because the hot glue tends to melt the polystyrene, but other than that it can be used for most modelling tasks. I use this a lot for gluing vegetation down. Cheap paint brushes from your local DIY shed are very useful for painting. Use a larger brush for larger areas, and smaller artists' brushes for more intricate detailing. These can be bought cheaply from places like Hobbycraft or The Range. You don't need to spend too much money on things like this because, well, depending on what you're using them for, they're going to get buggered up quite quickly. So, a nice fine brush, fine tip for very, very small jobs. A wider brush for larger areas. An old brush cut down for dry brushing and stippling. And a general brush for other painting tasks. You will probably collect hundreds of brushes over your modelling career, and you'll decide which ones are your favourites. I buy the cheap ones from Hobbycraft because I'm not great at looking after them. But you can invest in natural, I think they're sable brushes if you're more into your fine art. Don't need to spend too much on these. A hot wire cutter is recommended for cutting polystyrene sheets and for creating contours in polystyrene prior to putting in another product on top like plaster cloth or what's that other thing called? Papier-mâché. Great for that. This is a cheap one. Bought this off Amazon. It has its own power supply. And it came with spare wire. About a quarter of the price of the equivalent Woodland Scenics model. And in my opinion, works better. An airbrush and compressor set is also useful to have, but it's advised to invest more in a good compressor, a relatively inexpensive airbrush with a little bit of practice can yield good results. You can buy these Fengda brushes from Amazon. They come in various types and sets. They're not expensive. I think this one was about 25 quid and it came with smaller paint reservoir, a suction paint reservoir and 3 different tip sizes, so I could do pretty much everything with this. There's no need to splurge on an expensive eye water unless you're doing a lot of detail and repainting locos and coaches. I mean, I use this cheap airbrush to paint my back scenes, which can be seen on my model layout in other videos. So those are the tools you're going to find useful when developing your landscaping on your model railway. I'm sure you'll find other tools that you come across, or if you've got any other suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. In the next part of the video, we'll be discussing additional tools that you may find useful when building your model railway. Along with all the tools we've discussed so far in this video, these additional tools, although not essential, will be very helpful in your modelling endeavours. This is an engineer's 1, 2, 3 block. They come in pairs. This is quite a small set, but they can be used for holding things down, making right angles when gluing things together, using both together to hold things together when gluing, and I'm sure you'll find lots of other uses for these. This is an engineer's V block. This is quite a heavy, large one, but these are useful for holding round material in central and clamped down for drilling. They're very heavy, so they can be used as weights. Again, they're precision ground, so they have accurate 90-degree corners, 45-degree V's, and are very handy for using as weights or as blocks to hold things together and other modelling tasks. I used a pair of these in my How to Improve the Hornby Pendolino video, which you can see again on the channel. A pair together, and I used them as a recess to take the axles, to knock the axles out of the wheels. Again, not a necessity. They come in different various sizes. They're not expensive. You can pick the smaller ones up cheap off of places like eBay and Amazon. Nice to have. I've got them because in my professional career I was a precision machinist, so this is my my bread and butter toolkit. They've got a new lease of life on them for the railway modelling. Let us not forget the self-healing cutting mat will be essential in protecting your working table from paints, glues and the effects of cutting. A very handy, inexpensive item to have, especially if you have to use the dining room table as a modelling area. This will save any marital upset. These small right angle magnetic clamps are very, very handy when scratch building. They come in various sizes. These are 3D printed, and it does what they said on the tin, really. You've got a pair and they magnetic together, great for holding card, plastic, MDF, anything really, if you're scratch building. They're available from eBay. These are made by Smart Models and they come in different sizes. These mini spring clamps are very, very useful for holding things together. Not expensive, can be had in various sizes. I think I bought these from my local DIY shed, but again you can get them off Amazon or eBay. I've got these ones, and I've got some smaller ones and some larger ones, so these are my medium ones. I've used these to good effect when scratch building. They're quite strong. A mini vise, very, very handy for holding things. This is the Proxon Tools version. This is the top part of the vise. The other part of the vise is bolted to my modelling desk, so I can't show it in the video. But again, they're not expensive. Very, very handy tool to have, and I've used this for larger projects, as well as holding very, very small items when I've been working on them. A portable workbench like those made by Black & Decker, very, very handy if you've got to cut larger materials for drilling and general third-hand purposes. Plastic cups and glasses are very, very useful for mixing paint and glue and holding on to items that you might lose otherwise. They're not expensive, and as they're disposable, it doesn't matter about cleaning up afterwards. I would say a packet of these, available from any good supermarket or hardware store or online, will last you several years, and I use these quite a lot for mixing up PVA and paints, and also just for general modelling tasks for keeping things together so I don't lose them. I have very poor eyesight, and I find these invaluable. This is my well, it's basically a magnifying set. Goes on my head, has a little light on the front. Comes with different magnification lenses that you can replace. I use this a lot for detail work, and I've also got an angle poise magnifying lamp on my desk that I generally use as well. I'd say even if you don't have bad eyesight, a set of these will pay for themselves, especially if you're painting figures. These are made by Oxford Instruments, and they're well worth the £20 or £30 I think they cost me. And I've had these several years now, and they're still going strong. A micrometer or caliper for measuring small things. You don't have to invest in these Mitutoyo professional meteorology items. You can get cheap ones. Like I say, I've got these because in the previous life I was a precision machinist. I have got a set of manual ones, but I couldn't find my 0 to 25 or 0 to 1 inch set, so I got these out of the toolbox to show you. So these are great for precision measuring. This one needs battery replacing, but they're great for precision measuring, back-to-backs, rail heights, dimensions for scratch building buildings. They've got external, internal and depth gauge. And the micrometer is useful for measuring things like axle shafts and bearings and that sort of thing for your modelling. I've also used these for measuring the thickness of plastic card, where generally I tend to use these. I think you can get a cheap pair of digital calipers on Amazon for about 20 quid now, and you can probably get a cheap Chinese knockoff of these Mitutoyo ones. But you don't need to go digital if you know how to read a micrometer. If you don't, look it up, it's not hard. This is an engineer's square. They come in various sizes. These are precision ground, very, very useful for making square edges on scratch buildings and other useful things. Your basic school mathematics math set comes with protractors and set squares and compass very useful for marking out and measuring on your model railway. I've used mine quite a lot. It can also be used for as a caliper, measuring distances. For instance, I'm going to measure a centimetre. There's a centimetre between those 2 points. Easy enough to use. We've all got them somewhere, or if we haven't, our children have. And finally, we've got wire cutters and wire strippers. Obviously, they don't really need to be explained what they do. Invest in a good set and they'll last you several years. These are from DCC Concepts, as you can see, the logo on there. And these ones I think I bought from Plumbase several years ago, and they're still going strong. They're not expensive. Clark make a pair, I think Draper make a set. Cutting and stripping wire is something you're going to be doing a lot of when building a model railway, so they're a worthwhile investment. So there you have it, a little list of the tools required to turn timber into baseboards and baseboards into a model railway. You don't have to rush out and buy everything all at once. Most of these tools have been gathered up by myself over a period of years, and this is where joining your local model railway club would pay, because you may find that the tools that you need are available to borrow or hire from your model railway club. And if you need help with anything, I'm sure the wider membership would always be willing to help. Just remember, a model railway of your own needn't be a pipe dream. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Rome wasn't built in a day. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. It's been a long one, but if you stuck with me this far, well done. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.